Hello and welcome to another Nordic Takedown podcast video. Here I'm so humble. I'm back with another video this week. Yeah, you get to see a lot of me here, but I got some time extra over, so I wanted to make some videos for you guys. So now we have had our first big tournaments in Europe and in Scandinavia, especially as well, where I and the Nordic Takedown are mostly playing. So I was going to make a bit of a meta breakdown video, what to bring to your next tournament, like if you have upcoming PQs or store showdowns coming up here before the holidays. It might be too soon to talk about what's going to be after the holidays because the meta can still change. We are in a land with no bobas after all, so the meta can change quite fast, I would say. So first, I would also like to say that just because these decks are what I recommend, and I might think some decks are better than other, like you should stick to something that you are also comfortable with. Like, are you aggro, mid-range, or control player, for example? You should probably stick to something of the better of that archetype that you are comfortable with and that you like playing, right? So I'm going to go through which decks in the different types of archetype types there is that I think that you should consider playing. So moving on to aggro decks first. These are the two decks that I think are the best options if you want to play aggro. It is, of course, Django Tarkentown. That was the first new deck, basically. It's basically Boba Red with some upgrades to it. And some, what would you say? So things for Django, like he plays different than Boba because he taps and not plays extra units. But it's basically Boba Red space deck. It has been a little bit figured out, in my opinion, now. People know how to play against it. I think its big strength is that it's pretty good into Sabine. But I think that it is a bit weaker against most other things than Sabine is. So I think I think both are very fine to take to a tournament, and you can win it. You can go far. You will get some in between time to reset and take some air. You're not gonna go to time if you are well practiced with these decks. You might at some point, but not much. So I think if you like Go Space, you go Django. If you want to be more flexible, you just play Sabine. But I think that Sabine might be the better choice. And I'm going to talk a little bit more here about her because I think that she runs better into Bosk, Blue Control, and Palpatine Control, stuff like that, because she has that ping. She has that for a cause I believe in. She has also the access to timely intervention. You can also bring in Darksaber if you want to have in certain matchups where that one is really, really big. Meanwhile, Django really kind of runs the same into everyone. But if you are in a meta where you expect there to be a lot of Sabines, I think Django is a very good choice because you can still beat these control decks and come swinging against the Sabine. But if you think that the top players are going to be on mid-range or on what would you call it, control or soft control, I think Sabine Wren is the better pick over Django, but they are pretty close. And then I of course think that you should add in Metal Ceremony and maybe Colonel Yolara. I think those are really important to mess with the Tarkentown and stuff like that, and removal spells like Felder Dragons and takedowns, and even open fire, like getting up to 5 HP instead of 4 and stuff like that. Coming to the mid-range decks, there is for me 2 premier mid-range decks that is the best right now, and it's the Cad Tarkentown and Boss Green. Cad Tarkentown showed up pretty huge, I think, in Birmingham. Stat-wise, it was only one making it to the top cut, but a lot of players had good results with it. It beat down on a lot of other mid-range decks. Tarkentown is just a really, really good place right now, I would say. And Cad Bane can play the slower game, especially against, can take on the control side against Sabine and Django that needs to place things first. And then you can ping, you can use the McClunky. You also have the access to Now There's Two of Them. This is the first deck that actually uses Now There's Two of Them in a very efficient way, which makes the power plays with Suckers on turn 2 is really, really strong, which you can follow up with a 5/5 4-loom in turn 3. So Cad Red, really, really strong deck. It has this weakness against Bosk and Palpatine control because it cannot really level up and punch that fast as it's needed. So if you think it's going to be an aggro meta with a lot of Django, a lot of Sabine, and maybe a lot of other mid-range and not too many control decks, then just go for Cad. He's really, really strong, really, really fun, flexible. You can do a lot of tricks. You have access to quite a lot of smuggle if you want with Basine and Hotshot Blaster and the Slingers if you want to. So you can also build it to avoid the discard decks. And here to another personal favorite of mine now after the Cantina Brawl, it's Boss Green. This deck is actually a lot better than I thought and might be one of the sleeper decks of this meta. It could really take off, in my opinion. It has, and I really, really want to emphasize that I think you should play with the 30 HP base and not ECL, because I think ECL leaves you way too vulnerable to aggro, and you don't need that tempo swing in the mid game. You just want to ramp. You can play up to 9 ramp cards if you want in this deck, and you want to get to your Vader, Maul, Walker, Emperor Palpatine, and Crate. So I think you want to make an early plan that wants to play bounties, you want to claim, you want to stabilize and then just punch. You have to have like some answers into aggro, obviously, but double claiming to get 2-3 drops out, or like or ramping into an earlier boss, that is also very strong. So this deck is not terrible against aggro. And it can really deal with some of the control decks because you have so much ramp, so you can ramp beyond them and put like two big threats for them to handle quite early. So Boss Green, definitely a good list and a good shout out. I don't think we have found the perfect list yet for Boss Green, but when that happens, I think that's going to be a really, really strong deck. Then we go into the more of the soft control decks. You see that now we are into the blue territory, right? The mid-range deck are without the blue. Here we have a blue leader or a blue base, because if you want to play any kind of control stuff in this game, I think you need blue. You need access to takedowns, Fell the Dragons, even Rivals Fall or Vanquish, depending on how you want to build it. And starting off with Director Krennic, he is the, I guess, Iden Green. Iden ECL was the first soft control deck we saw in set 1, but Krennic took her place pretty quick, and I think many people have talked about the upgrades to Krennic for the set, like getting access to the Magma Guard, for example, even Grievous, and the Ashate or something is called, like the 2/3 that comes 2/5 that comes damage, who's basically a 3/3 for Krennic. There is a lot to Krennic to like. He's really good with Dr. Pershing because Pershing gets a damage on him, and Pershing can damage units, so they get stronger for Krennic. So I think he is a good soft control leader. I just don't think that he is not that good right now. He's not the strongest deck to pick to a tournament, but you can pick him, play well, and like if you are that kind of a player who likes the villainy side of soft control, he is your choice. I think he's better than Kira, because he is better into Sabine and Django than Kira. I think Kira can't basically win against Sabine. I think Krennic can. So that's why he's there. I think the soft control villain side has a little bit of an issue right now in the meta because of the hard control. So that is why I think Anakin Skywalker and the soft control side of the blue red shell is a little bit better positioned right now. I think because you have access to the discard package, you can deal with most mid-range decks. You can also punch up against the control decks that are more heavy than you. You have also access to tech in Cassian, so you have access to way more cards than, for example, Krennic. And now when I'm showing this, obviously you are here on the Nordic Takedown. We are not talking about the bravado Jedi lightsaber up and down Anakin. We are talking about the grindy Anakin with C-3PO, R2, tons of removals, Luke, crate dragons and stuff like that. You have to play very, very nice and very strong to beat the Sabine and Django players, but that's definitely possible. You're around a 50-50 matchup against those. Initiative matters a lot, and you can sideboard heavily against those if you think those are going to be decks that appear going to be heavily represented in the meta. Another part with Anakin is that you just beat everything that isn't optimized. Like if you someone brings something homebrewed, you just can't lose with Anakin if you play him correctly. He's so strong, his abilities amazing. And the flexibility of the deck with all the smuggles, with the late game threats and the force package and like the discard makes this deck very difficult to play, but very, very strong. And here we come into the control side. The control has maybe never been as strong as it is right now in Star Wars Unlimited. Bosk Blue took everyone with Storm here, with Thork in Birmingham, and I think that deck is really, really strong, being able to double claim the top target or death mark depending on where you want to be. The new basically Power of the Dark Side card, I think it's called Merciless Contest. Like you can go full mega control here with Bosk, and I think he has a good matchup into everything if you play it correctly, except maybe yellow blue control, or yellow control, because they have access to more more of their events and stuff. I don't think anyone needs to talk more about that deck. It's really, really strong. You just have to be a fast player, and it's also very difficult to play. So you don't want to get to time too much around time, and so you have to surrender or lean on your opponent to surrender, right? And lastly, on the control side, we have Palpatine. Emperor Palpatine is in an amazing spot right now. I think you can build him with any color and it's going to be good. I think we have seen less of the red one, of course, but I am not surprised if you can make we talked about the Bosk green in the mid-range stuff here. I think that shell, you could go a bit greedier and play it with Palpatine. That fixes some of your issues with potential card draws and stuff like that. I'm not entirely sure if that is better, but I think you can play that and it's going to go well. We have seen in many tournaments now that the blue and the yellow ones are the one performing the most. I think those have the most legs at the moment against the aggro. And they are really good into the control mirror. And they are really strong against mid-range decks that cannot punish, can't kill before Palpatine flips. So Palpatine really gets the opportunity to make a good flip and take good units. I think he's also a very difficult leader to pilot. Flipping him too early can lose you a lot of games. So I would not recommend him to anyone, to picking him up a few days before a tournament and then start playing. I think you would like to have a lot of games to know when to flip with Emperor Palpatine. So these are the decks and the different archetypes that I think you should look into. If you want to have a competitive run, if you just want to have fun, obviously just pick anything you want. But this is if you want to try to actually win or top your PQ, or like, yeah, have a good chance to get into the top cut. But obviously, comfort above all. You should take something you're comfortable with. But here is some here's the decks that might be some of the decks that are close to what you're comfortable with, which makes an easy transition. And like, you should have fun when you play. Like, you should not, if you don't like the controls or the aggro decks, for example, you should not play them just because. You should play something that you think is fun, and then try to tweak that list and hone in on that archetype. Because if you go to a tournament with a deck just because it's good and it's boring, and then you have a little bit of bad luck, you will have a really bad experience. So just take the archetype that you like and try to get the best out of that archetype and do as best as you get. Because in this meta, you can actually win with a lot of things. It's not one deck that rules them all. So that is the last thing I would say. I think out of all of these decks we talked about, I think the Palpatine, Bosk, and Anakin are the ones that are kind of most well-rounded in a way. But like Sabine and Django is always Sabine, Django. Like, you can take anything here and just and have a good tournament. So thank you for listening to this, and like, leave comments if you think I missed a top deck. Honorable mention now in the end to Han Yellow as well. But I think that is a very hard deck to pilot, and I think it's easier than to go Django or Sabine if you're looking at switching. But yeah, so thanks for watching. Leave a comment in the comment section, like and subscribe if you like these videos. Join us on the Discord page, and see you next time. May the force be with you.